Special addition to the sports page, the Washington Capitals are headed to the Stanley Cup Finals, breaking what seems to be a curse on pro teams here in the area. Last night, they shut out the Tampa Bay Lightning 4-0 in Game 7 to win the series and advance. The Caps will face the Las Vegas Golden Knights for Lord Stanley's Cup. The finals begin on Monday.
So, Monica, perhaps I'm wrong here, but you seem just a tad bit excited there.
I am thrilled. 20 years? You know the DC sports curse, Byron. You know the deal. And I think so many fans were ready for the Caps to drop Game 7.
When they last won, I think I was like 5 or 6 years old.
I was 9. I was 9. That's a true age.
Okay, so...
Like, what were you doing, Coach? Like, did you have game awareness? You know who you're dealing with?
I think Tyronn Lue, the player, answered that question.
Okay. Hypothetically, guys, we got to wrap up this block. But hypothetically, just watching the way those two coaches responded to the incident, Steve Kerr definitely gets the award for grace in that one. Of course, he also got the win in that game. Play along.
Okay.
Should the coaches switch teams in this instance? Does that go that way? I actually would not be surprised if the Caps do not win Game 1. I do think that they are poised, and it is time for Alex Ovechkin to cement his legacy in the NHL. I do think that they can win this Stanley Cup. I think for a lot of DC fans, at least for myself, having shaken off the nerves in the Game 7 versus Tampa Bay, now you're all in, right? Like, now let's just go big or go home, as opposed to being reserved for fear of what happens to DC sports teams. First of all, we have to give a credit to Coach Oyama in terms of being so candid. We know that UConn's that overall #1 seed, but they can't take it for granted, and I love that Coach is so enthused that he gets to hold that against his team from last year. But in general, when you talk about the American, the two teams we saw tonight have a wonderful opportunity to make some headway in the NCAA tournament. UConn, they are who they are. We fully expect them to be in the Final Four, although we're not taking anything for granted. As for the USF Bulls, I could easily see this team advancing to the Sweet 16, maybe even the Elite 8 in terms of who they end up matching up with.
This one has big March implications.
It does indeed. When you look at these standings, both of these teams are jockeying for position. They don't want to be one of those teams that have to play that play-in game when we get to the conference tournament in Chicago.
As we take a look at our keys to the game, starting with the Red Storm, they're looking to bounce back from a loss at Villanova.
Absolutely, and part of them being able to bounce back will be scoring. Coach Tart wants to see them score over 70. In this particular matchup, they're going to be mindful of the ball screens. They've got to know who's switching and who can't switch. Then they've got to stay locked and loaded. John, you know that this group is talented, but sometimes they're not always as focused as they should be.
And for the Hoyas, it's all about the defense.
Absolutely. They, ironically, want to keep the score under 55, so it'll be interesting to see who can execute their will. On Friday against Seton Hall, transition buckets, A+. They nailed that category. Will that continue? And then Windex, they've got to continue to clean the offensive glass. They're second in the conference in terms of offensive rebound. Another interesting thing to note, you heard Coach Joey Jones allude to it when I talked to him earlier, the preparation leading into this game. It's been a little bit different. Both teams have been away from the game. For Air Force, their last game was November 25th. For the South Alabama Jaguar squad, their last game was December 3rd. Air Force sent their athletes home for Christmas on December 15th, and they reconvened here in Tucson on Christmas Day. As for the Jaguars, they went home the Thursday prior to Christmas, met back in Mobile on Monday, practiced, and then hopped on a plane to come out to Tucson to continue practicing in preparation on Tuesday. Both coaches said that they are very pleased with what their teams have shown as far as focus and determination in practice. So we will shortly find out just how well those practices have gone.
And I start with that. Is it panic time for this Dayton Flyer team?
All right, first of all, Jay, we got to relax on the use of the word panic. We're practically in March. Dayton is going to dance. They're going to be one of the top seeds in the A-10, barring a huge combustion at this point. And we got to be honest when we talk about what Dayton is going through. Welcome back into the A-10 Spotlight. It's time for Crossfire. Jay and I are going to debate a relevant topic in conference. And this week, the question is, who could emerge out of the middle of the pack and surprise some folks? My vote is Davidson.
Why?
When you look at Davidson's schedule, they have 4 home games that could be very valuable wins. They get St. Joe's at home. They get GW at home. They go on the road for 3 more games. They only have to go to VCU. They play George Mason and Fordham on the road as well. I just think Bob McKillop is such a great mind in the A-10 that he can orchestrate this group of guys to really surprise some folks, and especially if they just focus on protecting home.